Chapter 9 is all about internal regulation. So how does your body regulate your temperature and everything that goes on inside of you? So temperature regulation affects many different aspects of your behavior. It is vital to your ability to function on a normal basis and carry out various behaviors to have your body temperature regulated. Homeostasis refers to your body's ability to regulate its temperature and other biological processes so that your body variables stay within your set point. Everybody's weight, everybody's desire for food and water has a threshold. And homeostasis is the balance that your body needs to keep to know it is functioning in the right way. Homeostasis can involve temperature, levels of water, oxygen, glucose, calcium, protein, fat, and level of acidity. All of those areas need to be in balance. Your set point is your body's way of maintaining itself. For most people, their weight is going to stay within 1 to 3 points of a certain range on any given day. Like some days you might feel a little more bloated than other days, and you may have more water weight, but you will not have more than 3 pounds of that. So your weight is going to fluctuate. Let's say you're 150, it could fluctuate between 153 and 147, but always stay around 150. In order to maintain your set point. Negative feedback is the process that reduces discrepancies from your set point. If there's a discrepancy, you will be motivated to do something. If your body weight drops to 145 or 140, you might find yourself hungrier because you're trying to reach your set point. Allostasis is the body's adaptive way to anticipate your needs. This helps the body avoid errors and tries to correct for anything that could be happening because your body wants to keep homeostasis. Temperature regulation is one of the body's biological priorities so that you're not too hot, you're not too cold, you're just in the right place. Maintaining your body's temperature requires twice as much energy as all other activities combined. Your basal metabolism is the energy that's used to help your body maintain its constant temperature, even while you're at rest. When your body's temperature matches the temperature of your environment, that is a state of poikilothermic or ectothermic energy. Amphibians, reptiles, and fish are going to have ectothermic experiences. Any organism that lacks an internal physiological mechanism of temperature regulation could experience this. Their body temperature is going to match their environment. For these types of animals, their body temperature regulation is accomplished through their environment. This is what makes many of these animals, quote unquote, cold-blooded. Although they're only going to be cold if their environment is cold because their body temperature is regulated by the environment around them. Homeothermic or endothermic environments have to do with physiological mechanisms that maintain a constant body temperature. So mammals and birds, they need energy, they need fuel. They engage in sweating and panting to decrease their body temperature. And anytime there's an increase in temperature, There could be shivering, decreases in blood flow to the skin, and flushing out of fur so that there's more insulation. Poikilothermic animals will die if their body temperature drops below freezing. Ice crystals will form in their cells and blood vessels. For amphibians and reptiles, they will bury underground to avoid the cold. Some insects and fish will keep a reservoir of blood with antifreeze components in the winter so that they can use it later. They have a really good way of clotting their blood so that they can repair any type of blood vessel that ruptures due to cold temperatures. Mammals have evolved in a way to have a constant temperature of 37 degrees Celsius. That helps them be ready for all of the activities they need to engage in. It requires them to use more energy, helps their body break down proteins, and engage in reproductive cellular creation. So when it comes to body temperature regulation, it's predominantly dependent on the areas of the hypothalamus, because remember, the hypothalamus is going to be responsible for most of our pleasurable activities, eating, sleeping, all of those things. Our immune system helps regulate our body temperatures. So here are some major subdivisions of the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland that are going to help you regulate your body temperature. When it comes to your immune system delivers histamines that help cause shivering, increase metabolism, and fever. So if you're sick, it's trying to fight off whatever's going on in your body. When you're sick and you have a fever, it is because of increased body temperatures set point. The hypothalamus is creating that increase in temperature, and the benefit of your temperature increasing and having a fever is that bacteria will not be able to grow as quickly, and your immune system can work faster by having that fever. If a fever is above 103 degrees, then the body is having to work harder than it needs to. If your temperature reaches above 109, then it's life-threatening. And that's generally why the temperature is usually, 100 to 103. Most people try to manage it themselves. And then if it gets too high, they see the doctor because that can cause more harm. Thirst occurs because water in the body must be regulated. Your body consists of 70% water. Having enough fluid helps our blood circulate and helps us maintain our set point. Chemicals in water help determine the rate of all chemical reactions in the body. So if you don't have enough water, then your body won't be able to circulate the blood flow the way it should. How your body regulates your water intake depends on circumstances. Water can be conserved by your body in concentrated urine and by decreasing the amount of sweat you experience. Most of the time, as your body uses water, you will drink more water so that you can replenish yourself. And you'll go to the bathroom and then get rid of what you no longer need. Vasopressin is a hormone that's released by your pituitary gland. It enables the kidneys to reabsorb water and excrete it as concentrated urine. It also raises your blood pressure and constricts your blood vessels and helps compensate anytime you don't have enough water. There are two different types of thirst: osmotic thirst and hypovolemic thirst. Osmotic thirst results anytime you eat salty foods. If you eat something salty, you're immediately going to feel thirsty. And more than likely, you'll want to drink anything, or you definitely want water because you're just so thirsty. Hypovolemic thirst is the thirst that results from losing fluids due to bleeding or sweating. And if you go to the gym, you're working out, you're sweating, you're trying to replenish yourself by drinking water. Osmotic pressure has to do with how that water is flowing within your body. Water is going to flow in a semi-permeable membrane from one area of low concentration to an area of high concentration. Osmotic pressure occurs when the solutes at one area are more concentrated on one side of the membrane than they are on the other side. And you can see from the picture the greater concentration on picture A and the water flowing out of the cell on picture B. Whenever you eat salty foods, it causes those sodium ions to spread through your blood, and the higher concentration of those cells in your body is going to draw water from the extracellular fluid. There are some neurons in your brain that can detect that water loss and trigger osmotic thirst, which is going to have your body requesting more to drink. Your body can detect osmotic pressure by receptors in your third ventricle, by checking the amount of sodium concentration in your blood, and through receptors that are in your stomach and digestive tract. It's going to relay that information to your hypothalamus and two parts of your nucleus so that you can then drink. Those receptors are going to relay that information so that you will engage in drinking. And all of this, of course, is happening in your body at a very quick rate so that, it's not like you're stopping and thinking about it. It's happening very quickly. So here's an example of some of the brain's receptors for osmotic pressure and blood volume. And you can see those areas and how close they are to each other. When osmotic thirst is triggered, water that you drink must be absorbed through the digestive system. It's going to be delivered by the blood to the brain and can take about 15 minutes. To inhibit thirst, the body will monitor swallowing and detect how things are getting to your stomach and intestines. When thirst is associated with low volumes of bodily fluid, then hunger could be triggered. A low blood volume means that your kidneys release enzymes that will constrict those blood vessels to compensate for your loss in blood pressure. And your hypothalamus also relates your ability to be hungry, so it's going to trigger that. In animals that have hypovolemic thirst, they will prefer salty water, and sodium-specific hunger will crave salty foods. So here's a chart that's in your textbook that kind of tells you a little bit of the difference between osmotic and hypovolemic thirst and where those receptors are located in your brain. All animals are going to vary in their eating strategies. Predators have large digestive systems that are able to adapt to huge, infrequent meals, so they don't have to eat as frequently as others. Bears are constantly eating. Small birds eat what they need for the moment in order to preserve their weight and to fly. Chickadees eat enough daily to increase their body weight by 10%. And then at night, they lose it so that they can stay warm. When it comes to the human digestive system, our digestive system breaks down food into smaller molecules that the cells can use. Our digestive system begins in the mouth, and your saliva glands help break down carbohydrates and send that information down your esophagus and into your stomach for digestion. Enzymes in your small intestines are able to digest proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. And your large intestine is able to absorb water and minerals. It helps provide lubricants that can help information pass through your feces. When it comes to eating dairy, many mammals will lose their ability for lactase, which is necessary for metabolizing lactose, the sugar that's found in milk. So that could cause intolerance for many mammals. Milk consumption after weaning can cause gas and stomach cramps. And anytime those lactase levels are declining, it may be an evolutionary way to encourage weaning so that milk isn't relied on anymore. Beliefs play a big role in food selection. When people believe that things like sugar causes hyperactivity in children, they may not let their children have sugar. If people feel like eating turkey makes them feel sleepy, then they may not eat it. When people think fish might help improve their memory, they might eat more of it. So a food selection is not always based on taste. Sometimes it's also based on beliefs. When it comes to oral factors, the desire to taste and chew are some motivating factors of hunger. And some animals do not prefer to eat to feel full because of different feeding issues that could exist for them. The main signal that stops us from eating on a regular basis is the muscles of the stomach engaging in distension. Those stomach walls will be stretched and send information to the brain that says, stop, you don't need any more. The duodenum is part of the small intestines, and it is the site of absorptions of small amounts of nutrients. It can help you feel full and help you regulate your hunger. It can also help send messages to your hypothalamus and cause the stomach to hold its contents and fill up faster because of hormones that are released. Glucose is the main ingredient in our digestive tracts. It's important for our ability to maintain our energy, and it helps send fuel to our brain. Excess amounts of glucose will enter the liver and fat cells, and it can cause disorders such as diabetes. Insulin is a pancreatic hormone that enables the glucose to enter your cells. After you eat a meal, your blood glucose levels fall, your insulin levels drop, the glucose cells enter more slowly, your hunger increases, Glucagon is a hormone that's released by your pancreas when your glucose levels fall. It's going to stimulate your liver to exert energy and to replenish anything that's in low supply. If your insulin levels stay high, your body will continue to want to move. Things will continue to go in that circular pattern. Your food will be digested properly, and you might even gain weight. People who have type 1 diabetes have insulin levels that remain constantly low, but their blood glucose levels are high. They're going to eat more food than normal, but excrete glucose that's unused, and then that will cause them to lose weight. Many people with type 1 diabetes may not even be overweight. Leptin is the hormone that helps with long-term hunger regulation. It has to do with monitoring of the fat supplies in your body. The more body's fat cells that are produced, that will signal the brain to increase or decrease your eating. Low levels of leptin are going to increase your hunger, and high levels are going to reduce your eating behavior and increase your physical and immune system activity. Various mechanisms in your brain can also help regulate your hunger. Neurons that are sensitive, some neurons are sensitive to hunger symptoms, and some neurons are sensitive to satiety signals, and you're being full. Ghrelin is released by the brain and will act on the hypothalamus to trigger stomach contractions. Nicotine also helps stimulate those contractions, and that is why some people who smoke cigarettes will say, "I'm not that hungry," because their appetite has been decreased through smoking. The arcuate nucleus signals both long and short-term satiety. Your blood glucose levels work to let your body know it's time to stop eating. That information will be sent to your hypothalamus, and axons in your neurons will help your body know, hey, I'm full, we need to stop eating. Melanocortin is a chemical that's important to limiting the amount of food you intake. Input from your hunger cells will go to your brain to say, hey, well, you don't need to eat anymore. You need to maintain homeostasis. Inhibitory neurotransmitters like GABA and neuropeptides will also help you feel full so that you don't overeat. Orexin is going to increase an animal's persistence in seeking out food, in trying to find more food to survive. The lateral hypothalamus helps regulate your feeding ability and controls insulin secretion. Whenever it's stimulated, this has happened in a lot of studies with rats, it increases the drive to eat. Damage to the lateral hypothalamus will cause aversions to food or a lack of desire to eat food. Many axons that contain dopamine can pass through that lateral hypothalamus and it impact the way you view food. The ventromedial hypothalamus inhibits feeding. Damage to it will lead to overeating and weight gain. And there have also been lots of studies with rats to give us that information. So here's a chart also from your textbook that will tell you about the different areas of the hypothalamus and what that causes. There are lots of questions that you'll need to know from this chart. The last thing we really need to talk about are eating disorders. Most eating disorders exist because of the availability of tasty, high-calorie foods in our diets. They can make people obese or cause some psychological distress if they are consumed. Having a high-fat diet before birth can result in offspring that are born with larger than average lateral hypothalamuses. When it comes to genetics and body weight, thin parents tend to have thin children and heavy parents tend to have heavy children. People with a mutated gene for the receptors of melanocortin are going to overeat. And when it comes to weight loss, obesity is considered a disease in the United States. Dieting by itself is not considered effective. There have to be lifestyle changes, including exercise. There have been some drugs that are effective in the treatment of weight loss, and many people have undergone gastric bypass surgery, although there have also been negative things associated with surgery as well. Bulimia nervosa is an eating disorder where people alternate between extreme eating and extreme eating known as binges or overeating and extreme dieting. People with bulimia nervosa might force themselves to vomit or take a laxative or overly exercise after they've consumed food. Many people with bulimia nervosa might exhibit behaviors that people who are addicted to drugs exhibit. Anorexia nervosa is another eating disorder characterized by a refusal to eat enough to maintain a healthy body weight. Many people with this disorder have an exaggerated fear of getting fat. They might also engage in excessive exercise, have altered dopamine levels, and there's a lot of new hypotheses about temperature levels that could play a role in this development of this disorder. And that is everything you need to know for temperature regulation.